Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everyone had a good weekend. I had a phenomenal weekend. It was one of the best weekends of my entire life. Um, my eldest son, you'll be hearing his story soon, by the way. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into details, but he got baptized this weekend on his own volition. Um, no pressure, no coercion, self made decision to an extent. To an extent, and you'll know why I say to an extent when he does tell his story. Um, because it really is a testimony to when you let God do what he got to do, God going to do what he got to do. Hey, mama, what's up, Maureen? When you let God do what he's got to do, you just got to let him do what he's got to do. You can't save people. You can say what you need to say, but that's not what does it. Um, when you relinquish the control and you give up, you will realize that it's best that way because you don't have what it takes anyway. So it was really good. I'll be putting up the full baptism video on my um, YouTube channel here in a bit. Once he gives his testimonial, we're going to pre-record it and I'll splice it together, put it together, and because when you hear it, I mean, I told you a part of it, right? The initial contact he had with God in that dream, but and this weekend was, bro, just wow. It was just wow. In any case, I'm still like sitting for the most week part. I'm just in this kind of wow phase, awe, shock kind of thing. Um, no, not about Corey. It's about my kid, my eldest. My eldest got baptized this weekend. So, um, when I tell you when you hear the story, when you hear the full layout of what happened, man, whoo wee, whoo wee. In any case, um, catch the foxes. Now, I'm going to put my usual disclaimer. Um, this passage, while it may not be specifically to the walk of the Christian, and if it is directed towards uh, intimacy between spouses, just like with anything in life, it can be applied to just about any portion of our walk, simply out of the merit that God Himself equated marriage to our walk and the hierarchy in our walk. That was a him thing, that wasn't a me thing. He is the bridegroom, we are the bride. So, in a lot of ways, the intimacy that's spoken about in Song of Solomon can indeed be uh, taken as a archetype for our walk, as well as for intimacy. The particular verse that we're talking about, though, is in Solomon 2, Song of Solomon's 2, chapter 2. Um, so take it, when you read it, if you want to read it as a intimacy letter or as a walk in your journey with God letter, either one applies. But it says here in verse 14, actually, let's go to, where should we start with? Let's start with 13. The fig tree puts forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grapes give a good smell. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. Catch us the little foxes that spoil the vine, for our vines have tender grapes. Now, the imagery a lot throughout the Song of Solomon is one of awe and intense passion and possibly infatuation with each other. You will see her beloved and herself describing each other in some of the most poetic and intense descriptions. In this particular portion here, the reason I gravitated towards this catch the foxes thing was because of the analogous portion of it to foxes and problems. When you hear of foxes in the Bible, um, they're pests. Okay, they're not sweet little awesome animals that you want to pet and have as a pet. They're conniving. Um, they're vermin. They cause trouble. They steal. Even when Samson tied them together and have them run through brushes to set things on fire. Foxes, by the nature of how they're described in the book, are not pleasant creatures. Um, and in this case, they're vine ruiners, gnawing, scratching, ripping down, destroying vineyards. Someone as sly as a fox is not a good thing. You've heard of little stories where but the fox is never good. So let's discuss foxes for a minute and why it's essential for us to catch them. Now that we've had a little bit of a background in the Song of Solomon when it comes to them ruining love and ruining thriving love and ruining a sweet smelling vineyard and ruining everything that's growing, thriving. Let's discuss foxes in the context of your walk. So let's do two things first. Okay. I'm going to try and find this here. I'm going to show you something real quick. And I want you to really look at this and consider something. This is a fox next to a cat. They're not much bigger. And if you looked at them, you would think cute, harmless. And if cats like them, but I'm doing this for a size comparison, okay? A size comparison. They're not big. They can easily slip in, slip out, rummage through, but they're also quite capable of killing. It's not just plant, they take out chickens, poultry, small animals on your farm. They're no real different. The only thing is that they're a little bit more able to be domesticated than a coyote. That's about the only difference. I'm going into all this detail about them for a very specific reason. What they thrive on is the destruction of what helps humanity for their benefit. They're opportunistic. If you leave something unprotected from a fox, that thing is gone. You don't put up your chicken wire, you lose your entire poultry division. You have a cat, you live on a farm, your cat could be next. Heck, your puppy could be gone. And I don't care what type of puppy it is. If it's smaller than the fox, it's gone. It could be the same size as the fox, it's gone. They're not dogs. I think they're akin to the canine family, but they're not dogs, no. Now, now you have a idea of a fox. Consider your walk. Okay? Consider your walk. And in your everyday life, you have a couple of small things that you don't consider problematic to you. Little quirks that you have that are personality traits. They are deemed, oh, that's just how I am. And then you let in some other little things and make your world a little bit more full. Little habits. But those little habits are in such abundance that they, if you were to do an aggregate of them, they became one big personality trait. For instance, fits of rage, but not to the point where you beat people up, but they're just, you get angry, okay? But you get a little bit angry, not a whole lot angry, just a little bit angry. And pretty soon it becomes a trait of yours. You're easily disgruntled. And from the easily disgruntled phase, you become a little bit more comfortable with being disgruntled, and that becomes who you are. Okay. It's not sinning, you're just disgruntled. Then before too long, you realize that it's doing something else to your relationship with your kids and your spouse and your work coworkers, where that slight bit of disgruntlement is becoming a factor in your inability to listen. And before too long, you can't listen properly and you're becoming very short with people, and it moves from being disgruntled to being a very uncomfortable person to be around. And now your relationships are being affected. It's not just you getting a little bit upset. Now it progresses, but you still see it as just who you are. Now, before too long, that goes from being disgruntled to being short to finding fault all the time. You've just allowed a small thing to now permeate your entire being, and now you have a problem with anger. You're a child, 12, 13. You find a magazine. Nothing wrong with the human body. You have one. And this book kindles in you a little bit of a sensation. And at first, it's just, a sensation, and it goes away, and you put the book down. But before long, you find yourself wanting to have that sensation again, and you go find the book again. Now it becomes a ritual, per se, to go find that sensation. Small, very small, just a sensation. You're not fulfilling anything, it's just a sensation. Small fox. Before too long, the more you indulge that, the more you want. You want a deeper sensation. So you start looking for a new tributary to look for that sensation again. And this time the sensation is even more. And you're like, well, wow, I'm still not doing anything. I'm just looking. You get where that's going to end up going. But it started off very small. Here's a big one. You have a problem with life. And things just keep going ever so wrong, just enough to make you notice it. And you stop and you say, why? And you're looking at God saying, why? Now you're not blaming him. You're just asking him why. Eventually things get more and more regular to the point where things are bad. And it goes from why is this happening to why are you letting this happen? Things continue to go a little bit weird, but it gets better a little bit. Then it gets really bad. I thought you loved me. If you loved me, why is this happening? You just went from, I need an answer for the reasons things are happening, to why you letting this happening, to you're letting this happen, to stop making this happen and you're doing this. And before too long, you are now angry at God for something that he didn't do. But in your world, you have allowed that small fox of a thought to come into your mind. You see, all too often, what we end up doing is we do not catch the foxes. We just don't. We refuse to catch the foxes because if we catch the foxes, I mean, come on. I mean, why would I catch a fox? It's just a cute little fox. Right? It's just a cute little fox. You want to know what your problems look like when you first encounter them? Those small problems? This is a small problem, but it's not, it's just a little thing, a quirk. It's just a quirk. Okay, just look at it. I'm going to leave it up on the screen by itself for just a second. Watch. It's so cute, but it's just a quirk. It's just a quirk. And then before long, that quirk turns its attention to you. And then you see the quirk doing this. It's beautiful. It's just that, but I can stare at my quirk. The quirk is just, I mean, it's not that bad. If people see it, they're not going to think anything of it. It's just a quirk. That's just how I am. That is how we view our problem when we don't want to get rid of it. However, however, before you even know it, before you even know it, two things start to happen. Little joys that you used to have no longer are there. Because whether you believe it or not, it starts to pick off things that were giving you food, your chores, your jobs. This little fox that you entertained is now killing life within your life because it started off really cute, a quirk, a tick, a little trait I have, right? And then you realize that things are not going well at all. And you realize that your walk is becoming more and more difficult. And you don't know why. And you keep asking yourself, why do I feel so far away from God? Why do I feel so disconnected in my walk? Remember, he keeps picking off little life things: egg producing chickens, your pets. And then before long, your relationship with the Lamb of God ends up looking like this. That little fox has just put to death all semblance of God in your life. All semblance is gone. Now, mind you, he didn't kill the lamb, but he did kill that representation in your life. Those little foxes, cute things no bigger than a cat, but you allowed it to stay. You allowed that one small thing to stay. You didn't want to get rid of it because it identified you as something that's yours. Because you felt the need to hold on to something that you considered you, as opposed to letting it go and let God give you an identity. You don't want God's identity, you want your own, which is why it's fine to hold on to something that you've identified with as yours now. That little fox, that little cute red fox. Your life becomes miserable. You don't know why. All the little things you felt like were a joyous thing become a chore. Life is no longer a fun thing. Everything's a burden. Everything angers you, and before you know it, everything compounds. See, our inability to relinquish ourselves and what we want will result in exactly that. Every time you tell God, not that or not right now, you are entertaining a fox. Every time he points out to you something that needs to go and you ignore it, you're allowing a fox into your garden. Every time you read the book and you get into prayer time and he tells you and points out specifically something about you that needs to stop, and you put up resistance and you're like, you're allowing a fox. Now, we spoke about the two lives, right? Your flesh and where you're supposed to be dwelling, which is in the spirit world, right? Too many of us are overly familiar with the flesh and refuse to get familiar with the spirit. We somehow feel that the flesh will yield the same relationship as the spirit will to God, and it will never do that. This is why just going to church and just reading is not relationship. Those are physical things you can do. You can go to every potluck. You can go to Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, youth group, every event they ever have at the church, all of it. You can do all of that. It's not relationship. And when you try to create a God life in the flesh, it will fail because that's not where his power resides, which is why you can sin every day in that spot. Now, when you reside in the spirit and he tells you to look out for the flesh creeping into that relationship, you can catch that fox. Because, like we said, it's still there. It has no power, but it's still there. Let's break down power real quick. Don't know how many of you remember me talking about Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman was a massive human being, almost 400 pounds of just muscle. Just, he was a massive human being, strong. There are many things that Ronnie could do. Many. He had the power to do a lot of things. But no matter how much power he had, he couldn't reach a piece of tape on the back of his neck. He had zero ability to reach that tape if someone put it right in the middle of his back. Arms are too big, back is too broad, can't reach it. All that power was for nothing. But on the front, man, power. So that you see, the flesh is like Ronnie. The flesh is like Ronnie. His build, massive, strong, big, ridiculous presence everywhere you go. However, when you get introduced to and join lives with God, you are like that little piece of tape on Ronnie's back. For all the power Ronnie has, he ain't strong enough to even overcome himself to get to you. That piece of tape. Can't reach it. Can't do a thing to get to it. All that muscle for no reason. That's the separation of living in the spirit versus the flesh. All the power he may have, he cannot get to that. No, he's not dead. He's just damaged very badly. Overly worked himself, and now his back is broken up, all kind of stuff. But can't reach it. When you abide in the spirit, you're like that little piece of tape in the back there. And the flesh is like Ronnie. You may feel the flesh is really there, but you can't touch you. You can't reach there. There is zero way for him to get to you. The flesh can't touch you where you are. But here's what can happen. You can listen to the flesh enough to give leeway to options to find way to dislocate that piece of tape. You see, in and of yourself, you can't reach it. So a little fox comes up and says, you can try rubbing against the wall. I mean, you're not doing anything, you're just trying to get some relief. You could use a little stick or something and try and reach it from different areas. You could ask someone to help you remove it. Because now you're paying attention to that little fox that has nothing to do with the tape. Every time he calls you out to get rid of your attention paying to a quirk of the flesh, and you ignore, you are giving that little piece a foothold. And you think you're just ignoring it. You're not paying attention to the thing. You've just ignored getting rid of it. And in your world, I'm not doing anything with it. So why would it be a problem? It's just there. Well, if it's there and it hasn't affected, but it is affecting you. That's why I pointed it out. Well, okay. There's no reason to go after it right now. It's a little fox. It's a little fox. Take, for instance, this. I'm going to go after the ladies for a minute here. Don't take it personal. Please don't take it personal. But if you do, okay. that time of the month. That time of the month. When you give the excuses that you're short and curt with your spouse or your family because, it's that time of the month. You do realize that you're telling God he doesn't have the power to overcome that, right? You're telling him that the flesh is stronger. It is a little fox. See, it's no different than the man having his stressors at work and bringing them home. A man going through something at work, boss pissed him off. He didn't take it out on the boss. And he comes home and the kids feel it. Wife feels it. Everybody in the house feels it. Anger, right? That we can point out and say, you don't bring your work stuff here. Control that. And you should. You are completely right. That's a fox. Women, you have foxes too. And that's one of them. To be so given over to that behavior because of something that you say is, oh, it's chemical. But somehow chocolate solves it. I don't, we left you alone and left you with chocolate or whatever your vice is during that time. Somehow the rage subsides. I don't, so obviously it's controllable, right? Obviously it's controllable. There is a catch to it. Am I wrong? Or, I grew up with four sisters. I mean, maybe you can correct me, but I'm pretty sure that you have ways of avoiding being angry. But you still use it as an excuse for why you behave a certain way. So, in other words, you are purposefully allowing that fox because you feed it chocolate. So, Deborah, I'll give you an example. My wife is one that has massive suffering that time of the month. And I mean massive pain, excessive. It's horrible for her. Absolutely horrible. That's a physical thing. We are not talking about the physical thing. We are not talking about the cramp. And we're not talking about the pain. We're not talking about the bleeding. We are talking about the emotion. And we are talking about everyone else around having to function a certain way when it's that time. But for some reason, there is a cure all outside of the people in your household to help with it. So, like I said, there is definitely something you can do about it, but you allow it. You allow it. Why? Because it's natural. It's just that's time of the month. And you have to work your way around me because this is just how it's going to be for the next week. I give that analogy because it's one that we like to pass off as medical this and normal that, and I can't do anything about it. But your response to everything is very controllable. The excuses you give is very controllable. The answer you give for what and why you're doing is very controllable. That indeed is a fox. That indeed is a fox. This internet is getting me really, 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 really mad. Like it's angering at this point. Hang on one second. Um, Men, you can't get something, problem at work, a dilemma you're having in a project, because we put our hands to a lot of stuff, right? Someone walks up. Now, I'm guilty of this. Someone walks up, nothing to do with the project, like at all. Nothing to do with the project, but they need something, which you can easily pause your thing and go do. But because the project is pissing you off, that person now feels your brunt of your upset. That's a fox. That's a fox. Or how about this one? A honeydew. Can you get this done for me? Yeah, sure. A day later, babe, I asked you to can you get, yeah, yeah, sure. Babe, it's been 3 days. Quit nagging me. I'll get to it. It's a fox. Of course, by this time, the fox has already killed quite a few chickens and it's going after pets at this point. See, society has told men that that is an okay response because men never get anything done anyway. You ask them and you ask them and you ask them and you ask them. And they don't just get anything done. They just keep putting, they had this honeydew list and they just never get it done. And men are undependable and all that, blah, blah. And men take it. It's a fox. Everything from you not trusting God, not believing God, not taking it to God, and not listening to God, all foxes. And eventually, what will happen is your whole farm is dead, your vineyard is gone, and you wonder how this happened. You no longer believe in God, you wonder how that happened. I used to love God, don't know how it happened. It happened because when he did try to tell you to do something for your own benefit, and he did try to tell you to do something for the benefit of the relationship, you ignored it. It was cute. It had that look about it. It looked nice. It was pretty. It wasn't a big deal. Why would God want me to get rid of that small thing? It's so small. It's not even inconsequential. That's just how I am. Why would you want to change that? That's who I am. Thank you for the props, but you know what I mean. That's the wife, people. That is the wife. God, I've been that way since I was small. I've had to put that wall up because. Take it down, please. But God, it protects me. Take it down. But God, take it down. But God, okay. No longer a fox. Now it's destroyed the whole hen house. Small things matter. Small things matter. When the shepherd sees a fox roaming around, he gets rid of it. But for some reason, when we see a fox roaming around, we invite it in, feed it, pet it, keep it next to the things we value most. And when the things die, we wonder, how could that even remotely happen? It was just a cute little fox. Catch the fox. Catch the fox. Listen to him when he tells you something small that you might consider inconsequential. If he's pointing it out, at that point, it's no longer inconsequential. That there is no more inconsequential side to that anymore. If he is to the point of pointing something out, whether you believe it's inconsequential or not, that doesn't matter. He thinks it's important enough for you to get rid of it. He believes it. God believes that you need to get rid of that. You are not the one that can see all. He is. And if he is pointing this out to you, don't take it for granted. Don't be passing this off. Oh, man, come on, God, that's just me. That's just me. Fully agree. If you take nothing else from all of this, and like I said, either you apply Song of Solomon to a marriage or you equate it to something else, it does not remove the Bible's analogies of foxes and what they do and what they equate to. A fox is conniving, a fox is cute, inviting, seemingly harmless by the look of it. And it does that specifically to get into your world, to destroy the things that you love most. When you see it, kill it. Don't pet it. Don't ask its name. Don't entertain it. Don't open the fence. Chamber, bow, kill it. Because once it gets in there, you're done. You're done. I'll give you the list of this week's schedule. I had to get a whole new note program for this one. I've only made today's and tomorrow's. We're going to be talking about trust on Wednesday. And our guy that we'll be talking about in terms of trust is Noah. We'll be talking about Noah. And then on Thursday, we'll be talking about giving up. Okay. Giving up. So Thursday is giving up. Wednesday is trust. And then tomorrow is light in the tunnel. We're talking, someone suggested I talk about near-death experiences and all that stuff. So I have my viewpoints about that in particular. And we'll go over some of that on that tomorrow. Read the entire story of Noah if you want a book to read Noah's story. Up to the point of the post-flood. Read his story. Because that whole story is about trust on a whole different level. And then Thursday, like I said, giving up, because we don't like to give up. We like to hold on. We like to put our fingers in it. We like to make things happen. And the reason I'm doing give up on Thursday is because I'm hoping that by Friday, I'll have the story, my son's story, up, and we can react to it. on Friday. We can react it. Hopefully I can emotionally survive long enough to actually do this reaction. So we'll see. I really appreciate you guys being here. As usual. I'll have Wednesdays and Thursdays up before the end of tomorrow. I'm not going to guarantee that today, but it'll be up by tomorrow. If you take nothing else from this, catch them foxes. They're not there to help you. They're not playing. They're dangerous. And God is banking on you listening to him. If you want to see full, true transformation in your relationship, them foxes got to go. They got to go. They're not small problems. They're tentative, massive ones. Look at them right. Yeah, Too Strong will be on in an hour. They're tentative, massive problems, not small ones. They're dead chickens waiting to happen. If you need to mail anything to me, this is the P.O. Box. Make sure you write that down. If you need to email anything, this is the email. Make sure you write that down. And if you need to send anything, those are them. Write those down. The Savage Patriots will be on today at 6:30 Eastern. We'll be talking about the Korean War and the Vietnam War. And you don't want to miss that. And then we'll be responding on Wednesday to the deposition of former President Trump that he gave. So today we'll be doing Too Strong. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe today is a pretty big topic, because there are tons of things that... Oh, yes. Today is about thank you, Dimitri. Today's topic on Too Strong is about UFOs and whether or not they might be linked to Elon Musk and his drone program. So look into that one. We'll be talking about that. Savage Patriots, 6:30, Korean and Vietnam War. And then the mix will be on tonight. Tomorrow, we will be discussing light in the tunnel, near-death experiences. Wednesday will be Noah, and Thursday will be giving up. And hopefully by Friday, we'll be doing a reaction to my son's story. Okay, pretty easy week. And we'll discuss all that stuff. I love you guys. Have a grand rest of the day. We'll see you on the next juncture in an hour on Too Strong. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight, dreams, for if dreams die.